Hello, everyone. This is Chris here, and welcome again to another one of my movie discussion videos. And today we're going to be discussing the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. Specifically, should there and will there be a Pirates of the Caribbean 6? Obviously, Pirates of the Caribbean had an installment come out this year, the fifth installment, Dead Men Tell No Tales, and that movie has just come out on Blu ray this past week. And I think this is a relevant time to talk about this topic regarding whether there's going to be a sixth installment of the franchise, regarding where Dead Men Tell No Tales has left the franchise as of now. So let's go ahead and get started by talking about the series and the fifth movie itself. Now, with all my Pirates of the Caribbean videos I do, I always have to say that I'm a big fan of the series. Just a quick wrap up of my thoughts is that the first film I absolutely love, one of my all-time favorite movies. Parts 2 and 3, while flawed, I think are still fun, adventure, entertaining movies. I've actually come to really enjoy 3, and 2 is pretty good also. Part 3 at World's End, I think is sort of criminally underrated now. I think that movie is really epic, and I absolutely love the last about hour of that movie. It's just so damn great. The fourth movie, On Stranger Tides, was a misfire. It was just missing the elements that made parts 1 through 3 really special. There was really not a whole lot of redeeming elements to that movie other than a few scenes here and there. So On Stranger Tides Part 4, didn't like. And then the recent installment, Dead Men Tell No Tales, I was really excited to see. And I have to say that it did get back, had more elements of what made parts 1 through 3 so much fun. And I think overall there was some fun to be had in Dead Men Tell No Tales. Actually, a lot of fun. And I'll say that I did enjoy the movie. Like I said, there were a lot of elements that made me enjoy the movie as a fan of parts 1 through 3. I think the movie starts off really strongly. I'm going to try and sum up my thought, but as I said, thought the movie started off really strongly with the whole stuff in the town, and there was some fun here and there. I thought the movie lost some of its steam as it went along, but overall was a solid movie. And as a fan of parts 1 through 3, it was got me back to what I loved about the series. But in terms of talking about whether there's going to be a part 6, you have to look at two aspects: the financial aspect and the story aspect. And we'll start off by talking about the financial aspect. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales was the worst performing of the series in the US by far. Only made $170 million on a $230 million budget. So was a disappointment definitely at the US box office. Now, worldwide, it actually performed really well and actually made a pretty good amount of money. Has made worldwide 794 total, combining all grosses. So that definitely makes this movie not a flop. It was able to make a good showing worldwide. Obviously bad in the U.S., but definitely good showing in total. So what I've always said is that when the down movie in your franchise can make $794 million, basically let's call it an $800 million movie, because that's basically what it is. You in pretty good shape, because this was a movie. Dead Men Tell No Tales came out 6 years after Part 4, which was awful. Part 4 not good. So you have to wait 6 years later, and then you get an installment that makes $800 million. What that goes to show is that there's an audience that will definitely go out and see these movies no matter what, no matter the reviews, which I didn't mention. Dead Men Tell No Tales did not get really good reviews at all, only 29% on a Rotten Tomatoes, although the audience scores were pretty good. So that's a good thing, to showing that they were able to get some entertainment out of it. But with the reviews, I think that did hurt the movie. There just wasn't all that overwhelming buzz coming out. So that hurt the movie financially. But there's still plenty of people that enjoy these movies, as you can tell by the box office. And even that 170 million, that's way more money than a lot of the major flops from this year, like The Mummy or Transformers: The Last Knights or Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets made. So I don't think this movie deserves to be lumped into that category. What it does show is that there's not a huge clamoring for these movies in the US anymore. I think though, if they were able to make a movie that everyone would love and just got great reviews, then things would definitely tick up. Although I highly doubt that can happen. They've really had, I mean, parts 2 and 3 didn't get horrible reviews, but On Stranger Tides didn't get good reviews, and this one didn't either, though. So they seem to be struggling on that aspect, and whether they can bring that up, who knows whether they can or not. But worldwide, things are looking decent. So look, any movie that usually, if there was a movie that made $800 million worldwide, you would almost be guaranteed a sequel. But I think because this was such a steep drop off from the previous films, which part one, well, let's look. The sequels, Dead Man's Chest, the second movie, did over $1 million worldwide. At World's End, 900 million worldwide, and On Stranger Tides somehow did $1 billion worldwide. So this was a steep drop off from that, but still 800 million worldwide, not too shabby business. So from a financial standpoint, if Disney were to ever be lazy and say, you know what, we need another $800 million, and we know there's an audience that will go out and see these Pirates movies, they could definitely greenlight a part six and would almost be guaranteed to make that movie because, like I said, the audience has shown that they will show up because there's fans for these movies. Then I think that's why it could happen. But that's the financial aspect of things. So financially, things bad in the U.S., but worldwide not too bad. So that's why a part six could happen. But let's look at a story reason. Story reason should there be a part six? And well, getting into what Dead Men Tell No Tales, how that movie ended up, is that it's left us. The movie was marketed as the final chapter, and that was something I actually believed going in, just because these are not easy movies to make, and Disney really doesn't need Pirates of the Caribbean anymore now that they got Marvel and Star Wars. But what I actually enjoyed about Dead Men Tell No Tales is that the movie actually does serve pretty well as the final chapter for this franchise's story because the movie actually wrapped up the storylines of the main characters really well. Obviously, I'm gonna get into spoilers right here, but Jack Sparrow, he's gotten the Black Pearl back after he lost it again at the end of At World's End. He's got back. That's his prized possession, and now he's going on another adventure like Jack Sparrow always does. So that's good closure for him. Barbosa, obviously, major spoiler. He ends up dying at the end of part five. He realizes he has a daughter. He sacrifices himself to save his daughter Karina as Salazar is about to get them as they're climbing up the anchor to escape the tidal wave, and he ends up getting crushed by the tidal wave and stopping Salazar. So he's dead again, but it's actually good closure for him. It's actually good character journey for him. The fact that he was this bad guy at the start of part one, and he's come full circle to having a daughter who he sacrificed, and his whole relationship with Jack. That's good closure right there. And then closure for the other two major characters of the series, Will and Elizabeth, even though they're barely in part five. This movie actually brought good closure to the end of their story because after what happens to their relationship at the end of At World's End, Will being cursed on the Dutchman, having only being able to come on land once every 10 years, that curse gets broken at the end of part five. And now he can come on land and be with Elizabeth, who we see at the end of part five, who has no lines, but actually it's actually kind of good thematically that way. I actually sort of enjoyed that. So they have their reunion at the end of part five, and now he's on land and whatnot. So the movie brought good closure to all four of their stories, and that's something I really, really appreciated. It actually made me very happy when I left the movie, seeing that wow, this if there's never any more movies, this movie actually does serve well as a final chapter. And really, the only sort of the sequel baiting that this movie does do is the post credit scene where they tease the return of Davy Jones. He sort of a ghost of him comes into Will and Elizabeth's room and wakes Will up, but Davy Jones is not really there. But is he? Because we do see barnacles at the bottom of Will's bed. So is Davy Jones back? Who knows? I don't know if that's really worth exploring just because I thought Davy Jones' story wrapped up pretty well at World's End. I mean, he had a good arc in parts two and three, and he was a great villain. To really sort of forcibly bring him back, I just don't know if that would work all that well. And really, given how the movie closed the stories of Jack, Barbosa, Will, and Elizabeth, I don't know. It would seem kind of forced if they forced another story, unless it was something hell of an epic, because it would have to be a really impressive story for me to get on board with a part six. And that's someone who loves these movies, but I love good closure as well. So, would I want to ruin that closure with a part six? I really don't know. Now, a direction that people have thought about going in is just focusing on Henry and Karina, which those were two new characters introduced in part five, which I did like those characters. Well, Henry was okay. Karina I absolutely loved. I thought she was fantastic. Actually, the best female character or lead character in these movies. She was just a really well done, well written character. her dynamics are exactly the same as Rey. So you could call her the new Rey of the, as in Rey from Star Wars, the new Rey of the Pirate series, because that's really the role she played. She really was the standout character for me. And those scenes with her and Barbosa, I thought were great. So people have thought about following those two, although can those two really carry a franchise? Carry the franchise going forward? I don't know. I think these movies have to have Jack Sparrow, or Jack Sparrow to be a main part for them to really succeed or really to appeal to people. But to wrap things up, story wise, really from my perspective, story wise, should there be a part six? Unless it's something hella epic, which I have heard some decent ideas. Specifically, there was a story idea from another YouTube channel that loves pirates like I do, podcast now, who has a great idea for part six that I really enjoyed. But whether the studio would go through with it, I don't know. But with how things ended up with part five, I would have to say story wise, no. I think that things actually wrapped up pretty well for this movie. And if you forced another installment, I don't know. That's almost never a good idea unless it's something really, really inspired, which of course they always could do. But just from my perspective, story wise, I would have to say no. So when you look at the two aspects, financially, should there be a part six, and story wise, should there be a part six? Financially, if there's a movie that makes $800 million worldwide, then yeah, there should be a part six. But story wise, should there be one? Unfortunately, given the way how the story wrapped up kind of nicely at the end of part five, I'd have to say no. Now, like I said, I'm a huge fan of the Pirate series, so I'm not going to like throw a protest if they do a part six. I would just hope that they do it right. Um, but as for right now, I think the Pirates of the Caribbean series has left me really satisfied as a series that has meant a whole lot to me as through my years and my film loving years. Series I really enjoyed, and I liked how part five, even though it wasn't a perfect movie, still was a lot of fun to be had. And I sort of liked how things wrapped up kind of nicely for our characters. So I don't think there should be a part six story wise, but I wouldn't object to it as long as it's done right. So, anyways, those are my thoughts on the Pirates of this Caribbean series going forward. Whether there should be a part six or not, financially, yes, story wise, probably not. But, anyways, leave your comments if you've got thoughts on the future of the series going forward, and I will see y'all around with another video.